you so much. I don't think I feel differently from how I felt when I was 20, when I was 40, or when I was 70. I just feel the same. I accept that the aging process, takes its own toll on your physique, even on your vibrancy. Otherwise, I feel great. I feel grateful to Olodumare.
And how do you plan to celebrate?
Well, Nigeria is not at peace with itself. I told my children and my mother that I really didn't want to do anything. I mean, what I want to celebrate will be my autobiography, which will be launched maybe around March next year. And that will be presenting my life, the story of my life. That to me is more important than just getting together and eating rice and drinking wine. Be that as it may, the family insisted that they needed to do Thanksgiving. That it's important to show to the world that the family is grateful for breathing non-stop for 80 plus years. It's a miraculous thing. It's only in a country where the lifespan is about 47, and death is the cheapest commodity in Nigeria. So if one is lucky to turn 80, they thought it was important to have something on that day, and therefore invite friends, close friends, and some family members to come together. That is the way we are celebrating it. And it's going to be in Ibadan.
What are the lessons that life has taught you?
Well, life has taught me to be persevering, to be persistent, to be focused, to be kind and generous, to be giving, to be very, very humble, which I learned from my father, and to be fearless and courageous. To be fearless and courageous, which I learned from my grandfather and also from my father to some extent. And to be bold to speak my mind at all times, no matter whose ox is gold. I think that's what I've learned from life. Of course, life has taught me to be grateful to detractors, to be grateful to people who envy you, to be grateful to those who badmouth you. Because when they envy you and they badmouth you and they plan evil against you, those challenges propel you to greater heights. That is one lesson life has taught me, that at every turn that close people, put dagger on my back, I bounced, and that's one great lesson of life.
There are those who see Chief Tola Adeniyi as a very tough man.
Yes.
How does it make you feel when you hear such?
Well, I don't know. I mean, exactly when I started about Said in 1972 or thereabout, 73, and more so in my days in the Tribune when I was writing Till Death Do Us Part. My wife's colleagues in the secretariat and other friends of mine were always wondering how she could cope. They are worried about my life. I mean, Farumbi, my very close friend, I think in his preface to Abba Said, and Golaba Gusau, another good friend of mine, both expressed in that book that I was just lucky to be alive, that every time they read me, they were worried about my safety. And I should also say that I was lucky that at the time I was writing Till Death Do Us Part, in the days of Shagari, when I called him Lokobangoshi and all sorts of names, that it didn't occur to him to kill me. And even Gawan too, didn't occur to him to kill me. When I will now admit I was reckless in my attack of his government. people say so, and some people say I frown most of the time. They say I look angry. That I admit, I'm an angry writer. I'm angry because the Nigerian state had put permanent anger in my system, had put permanent anger on my face. I don't think anybody living in this country, especially those who grew up the way we grew up, with all the facilities at our disposal when we were in the secondary school, higher secondary school and university, are now seeing and going through what we have been experiencing in the last 50 years, you can't but be angry, and you can't but be sad. And also, when you see that the future of our children is being mortgaged, when you see the suffering our children and grandchildren are being subjected to, you can't but be angry. Because you ask yourself, what have these children done to deserve the mistreatment that is being given to them by those in authority? You wonder why especially people in the southern part of Nigeria, being subjected to the agony of JAMB, the agony of federal character, the agony of quota system. And you also wonder too, how the children of the Hausawa, the out of school children, running their millions, why any group of people could put their own people down, ruin the future of their children and great and grandchildren. That makes anybody sad. Or anybody could make children, teenagers, 14, 15, 16, to be following cow from Sokoto to Ibadan. I mean, how any human being could allow that to happen? Why they put their own children in air-conditioned rooms, they put their own children in luxurious apartments, and they send their own children abroad. And these same people who give their children the best that any parent could afford, will subject other people's children in millions to perpetual poverty and deprivation. It makes you sad. Anytime I see people carrying sanda and driving cows from Kotagura, passing through Mina, coming to Ibadan, coming to Lagos, I feel sad. Because I went through it. I mean, I also followed cow. I mean, I was driving cow from Ibadan to Djibouti in those days. Helping my uncle. But I wasn't forced to do it, and I just maybe more of the adventure of a child, of a teenager. To see how we have so many Hausas living in our house where I grew up. So following them to Ibadan, coming back with them, with my own son down on me, like that, and following cow at about maybe 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Ibadan Djibouti Road. But now I know that, and anytime I went, my feet would be sore, and for 2-3 days, I'll be in pains. So I can imagine what those people who are following cow, I always say following cow, what they go through. And why anybody in 2025, in 2020, in 2003, even in 19-something, should still allow that to happen? They killed, Nigeria is not the only place in the world where they had cattle. It's not the only place in the world where they eat meat or they eat beef. Why? That makes me sad. And I don't think that sadness or that anger will go until the situation is reversed and younger people are accorded the respect and dignity that God gave them.
But sir, as you celebrate your death,
yes,
do you still feel sad?
I'm telling you, I still feel sad. Well, I don't feel sad for myself. I'm okay. I mean, my children are doing great, and I thank Olodumare for that. But I feel sad. I took my children out of this country 30 years ago. All my 5 children. Pulled them out of University of Ife, pulled them out of University of Lagos, and those who are about to enter university, I also took them out.
Why, sir?
Because I saw that, how will I allow my children to spend 6 years in university for a degree when I spent 23 in my time? Why? If I could afford to prevent that, I thank God that I was able to. You know, I just cannot imagine that a university graduate, I mean, one man came here some time ago. I think he worked for one of these television stations. He had a master's degree, and he told me he was earning less than 70,000 naira. This was about 10, 15 years ago. And I felt bad. And he had to accept, because no other options for him, no other opportunities for him. The same man who studied, I don't know what, I think he studied geography or economics or whatever, the same qualification, the same service, he will render it in the UK or render it in America and be paid about 100 times what is being paid to him. And I just felt that should not happen. And I felt that if there was a way I could prevent it from happening to my children, I will also do so. I will do that, you know. But honestly, what makes me saddest is the plight of the youth of this country. No other thing makes me disturbed as the fate of the young people in this country. It's worrisome. It's alarming. It's terrible to have young children. So many young girls in the universities and polytechnics and college education have been turned into prostitutes. They may not want, and people know, running after big men, running after all these people because they must survive. And the needs of young women are more and greater than the needs are more compelling than the needs of young men. So it is the young women that are really at the greatest risk. They are the ones that are suffering the most in this country.
So can you tell us something?
Society. So it has so many implications. When you have bad government, you have bad people who impose themselves on people. And the people they impose themselves on are so idiotic and stupid that they don't try to free themselves from the yoke. And nobody's going to free them unless they free themselves.
So anytime you speak, you always talk about Olodumare.
Yes.
Why?
Well, that's my faith. Olodumare, I mean, you know, I spent 50 years not researching but receiving messages. When I say message now, they say the fanatics of Islam or Christianity will say, what message? But if Moses said he received message, he say yes. If Muhammad from Saudi Arabia says he received message, yes. But if Adekunle from Ibadan says he received message, they say it's the message from whatever. What I'm saying is that Olodumare is greater than Christian God or Muslim Allah. Olodumare is not a man, is not a woman. There's no pronoun for Olodumare. That's why the Yoruba call that phenomena, that self-manifest, that's why the Yoruba call that inscrutable being, that's why the Yoruba call Olodumare Aditu. That cannot be comprehended. And that's my faith. That's the person I pray to. It's not even a person, it could be it. But I believe the Olodumare can only be a woman and can only be air. It's Ategun. It's only Ategun that can be everywhere. No other thing. And that's why I don't believe in paradise, I don't believe in hellfire, I don't believe in all those rubbish. Because if you commit any offense on this planet, you have your suffering, you have your punishment here. My Olodumare does not do evil. I don't believe in that. Olodumare is clean, no blame whatsoever. If you are poor, you are poor. It's not the fault of Olodumare. If you cannot build a house, it's not the fault of Olodumare. If you are wicked, you are wicked. Olodumare is blameless. And the example in the book of my faith, the Holy Creed of Marism, that's the Holy Creed of Olodumare. I always illustrate it, and that's what I saw in my vision. if you are an estate developer, you have Sheye Estate and you have Busayo Estate. If the people living in Sheye Estate, they cut their grass, they do their drainage, they have a medical facility, they have their clinic, they have school, they train their children, and they're healthy. And then the people in Busayo's estate, they leave their grass uncut, no drainage, no nothing, mosquito bites them silly, no school, no clinic, and they fall ill every day and they die. It's not the fault of the estate developer. It's not the fault of the estate developer. And that is the way the Lord creates you. So what you do with your life, and you also have free will. The will to choose between good and bad. So if you decide to choose good, you reap good results. If you decide to choose bad, you reap bad results. You can't blame Olodumare. And that is why I believe in Olodumare as my object of faith. Second to that is the sacredness of, because believe in Olodumare and the belief in the sacred breath of life. I put them together. The breath of life must be worshipped. You can do without water, you can do without, but you cannot do without air. So the sacred breath of life, and that's why they say Emi Ọlọ́run spiritus. Emi is air. Emi Ọlọ́run, you can't see Ọlọ́run. So it doesn't. Olodumare doesn't live in a mosque, doesn't live in a church, has no business. Not come and trade with come and invest in God. Come and trade with. I've never seen the supermarket opened by God. I've not seen any business that God is in. It's not like amalgamated personal company. So Olodumare and the sacred breath of life, because without air, the body, they say, is almost 80% water, and water is air. The brain is the largest organ in the body with the largest liquid in the body. The brain is also water, and water is air. So we are all air. We are all spirits, all of us. And that is my faith. And that's why I talk about Olodumare, the self-manifest. Asheleru and Totikarare Darare. And the way the other religions talk about God, male, and all this, because all the books, all the literatures are written by men. The Quran is written by men, the Bible is written by men. So they can say women must worship their God, they must be slaves to whatever. Because they're talking from male point of view. Olodumare can only be a woman. To be that compassionate, to be that kind, to be that productive, to be that strong. Because women are by far stronger than men. No man can carry pregnancy for 9 months, still cook. You wake up at 5 a.m., prepare for the husband, prepare for the children, take care of the in-laws, and then they'll also be the first to wake up. They'll be the last to go to bed. See women, see how they work. See women in markets. If you go into a market or if you go into anywhere, it's the women you see carrying load. Go to the road on the way to Delta. You will see women with children strapped at their back on the motorcycle. They're carrying bags of tuber. Women are strong. So Olodumare can only be a female, cannot be a male.
So what's the difference between Chief Tola Adeniyi and Abba Said?
Chief Tola Adeniyi is my name, Adetola Babatunde Atonda Adeniyi. Abba Said is Adetola Babatunde Atonda. Said is my Arabic name, because there is no Muslim name, there is no Christian name. People have been bearing Said, people have been bearing Muhammad before Muhammad was born. People have been bearing Emmanuel before Jesus was born. So no Christian name, no Muslim name. No Christian name, you have Jewish names, you have Hebrew names, you have Arabic names, and so on and so forth. But no Christian name, no Muslim name.
Why did you coin Abba Said?
It was Baba Jose who coined it. I mean, because during Gawan's regime, I was becoming an irritant. Especially when I wrote, there are 2 articles. Soldiers, Stones and Sanity. When some soldiers ran amok in Oshodi and were attacking people, I wrote on it and I was arrested. Then there was a time the police were using police vehicle as Kabu Kabu. I also said police vehicle as Kabu Kabu. I also wrote on that. I was arrested. So, and so many other articles. I wrote Let Me Fall, predicting Gawan's fall. So, Abajo then said, look, you called me Blackie. To protect your identity, he said, what is your Muslim name? I said, no Muslim names. I said, what name? I said, Saeed, Muhammad Saeed. He said, okay. You are important? Okay. Your initials. I said, I didn't talk about that. I said, okay. Abba Saeed. So when they said Abba Saeed, they thought I was from the north. And that's how Abba Saeed came into being.
And then, sir, what went through your mind at that time when you were writing all those deadly articles in the Tribune?
I had the background of doing so. I mean, I led rebellion in secondary school. I led rebellion at the University of Ibadan. And then coming to the larger society, I still felt touched. I still felt incensed by the rot I was seeing around me. And I thought I must express I must express the way I felt about what was going on, and in the strongest of language that I could muster, And like I said, such things, when I see oppression, when I see people ill-treating people, I get angry. And so that anger goes into my pen. It could be at a national level or international level. I wrote against Diori when he was president of Chad. I wrote and so on and so forth about many of them. When he said people should have been eating sand or whatever. And then he and his wife were sent away. I wrote about that. I wrote about monkey tail. So many articles I wrote to express my displeasure about what was going on. And when they created this Jamba, I said Jamba Furiti. I called it Jamba Furiti in 1978. And it remains Jamba Furiti till today. There's nothing I detest in the whole Nigerian charade as this jump. It pains me that somebody will score 6 A's at school certificate level or GCE level. Then you say the person should go and do some Jamba Furiti. Then the person may be unlucky and repeat it for 3-4 years. He made 6 grades he made 6 A's at the age of 18. Then up to the age of 22, the person had not been able to pass JAMB. And it's all employed to slow down the education advancement of the South. That's all. And Obasanjo allowed Yaradua to push that on him because he was not in power. He was just in office, head of state, but wasn't in power. Power belonged to Yaradua. From ordinary lieutenant colonel raised to major general overnight because it was Fulani.
So at that time that you wrote those articles, you infused Yoruba into it. Why did you decide to?
Because I'm Yoruba. That's my language. I mean, even though when I was in primary school, they made me prefect in charge of vernacular. I was supposed to punish whoever spoke Yoruba. Can you imagine the insanity? Prefect in charge of vernacular. My language was called vernacular. Vernacular is the lowest form of you can give to a people's speech. It's because I'm more at home with Yoruba. That's my language. That's the language of my birth. All my earliest poems were written in Yoruba. When I was on Akewi on Radio Nigeria in 1961, it was Yoruba. My earliest publication, I was Yoruba teacher in Ajikwe Girls' School in 1964. I was teaching Yoruba and English. So I'm very much at home with Yoruba, and of course I was very much influenced by my grandfather and my grandmother. Old people, and it's Yoruba all the time. I love Yoruba. It's a beautiful language. Again, it's the richest language in the world. No other language compares with Yoruba. I can't say any language that comes close to Yoruba. A word that you have, owo. You have aja, I mean, Yoruba, I salute.